glasses, so I can't see what I'm doing, but I think we'll manage. Before I start my presentation, it is the birthday of Nils, the founder of Umbraco, our chief unicorn. So we just want to make a quick greeting for him. We'll get an image and send it to him on Twitter and say happy birthday from the Poland Festival. And we just thought of this, and I kind of searched Google for images of chief unicorns, and this popped up. I don't know. Don't use Google, I guess. But what we'll do is 1, 2, 3, and then we'll say happy birthday, raise our hands. Is that cool? And then look at the camera as well. Is everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday! Thank you. That'll make his day. So, first off, I would like to say thanks to Cogworks and Adam and his team for arranging this wonderful festival. It's been a great day so far, and I'm sure it's gonna be just as good tonight as well. It's my first time in Poland. I've been really enjoying it. Krakow is amazing. I don't know very much Polish, I'm afraid, so I can't like spout out sentences like the other ones have done. I know tak and piwo, which is pretty much all you need, I guess. I know a couple of other words, but I'm not going to say them here. I might say them tonight, though. We'll see. So the agenda, I'll just quickly go through what I'll talk about today. I'll tell you a little bit about Umbraco HQ. Some of you are new to Umbraco and new to the community, so I'll talk a little bit about who we are. And for those who know us, you'll also get a sense of where we're going. A lot of stuff is happening in Umbraco HQ. I'll talk a little bit about our mission. We've kind of set a mission for us as HQ and what we want to give on to the community and to the project. Then I'll talk about Umbraco 7.5, which has just been released. The friendly version of Umbraco, we call it. That'll be kind of a thing through the talk, that things are getting more and more friendly, hopefully. Then I'll talk about our service, Umbraco as a service, show you what that is. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on our Umbraco, our community side. And finally, I'll discuss the roadmap, what's going to happen in the not too distant future with Umbraco. First off, I'm Rune. I work for Umbraco HQ, but instead of saying a lot of words, we all know that images speak louder than words. So I've kind of taken a history of my Facebook profile images, and that should pretty much give you a picture of who I am, I guess. Yeah, so now you know me. I was the first ever Umbraco intern. We actually, just a month ago, we got the second ever Umbraco intern. But yeah, I started as I was studying multimedia design, which is Danish for learning a little bit about everything in a way. And what I worked on first was the Code Garden 14 site. That was kind of how I learned to use Umbraco and got introduced to it. And then I started doing a lot of other things and got hired from it. So that was pretty cool. Since I got hired, I've been working with documentation for Umbraco, not writing all of it because there are cleverer people who should do that, but kind of gathering stuff and initiating people to write documentation where it's needed. There's still a lot of stuff to be done there, but we are moving in the right direction with that. I've worked a lot with onboarding, both for the CMS and for our website and for Umbraco as a service. Done some marketing, email campaigns, yada yada. I've also done some development. That's mainly been front-end stuff, Angular. I've worked a lot on the grid layouts, both the first and the second version of it. and hopefully we'll begin on a third version in the not too distant future. Then I also do training. I certify Umbraco developers, and then a ton of other stuff. I arrange meetups. I work a lot on Code Garden, on UNews, our newsletter, and I've also done some chapters for Umbraco TV. So pretty much everything, I guess. Right now, my focus is Umbraco as a service, onboarding new clients, onboarding our partners, and doing support for Umbraco Service. So if you try Umbraco Service, you'll probably meet me in the support chat in there. Great. So you probably thought I was going to talk a lot about Umbraco, but there's something else we need to discuss, because the qualification for the World Cup is coming up, and we're in the same group as Poland. So we are going to see a lot of this and a lot of this. I'm sorry to say. No, we'll do like our prime ministers. We'll be really friendly to each other, really friendly. Okay, let's just get started. So, Umbraco HQ, it's the headquarters of Umbraco. It's situated in Odense, which is the third biggest city in Denmark. So we're not in Copenhagen, and we're not an American company. A lot of people think that as well. It's a small-ish town in Denmark. And the HQ is growing. When I started, I think I was number 9 or number 10 in the HQ, and that's just a little over 2 years ago. And now we are 26 people. So we are expanding fast. And that's a large part of the team from this year's Code Garden. The beards, I guess. We've got an exponential beard growth in HQ. I just shaved mine. And beers as well, yeah, definitely. People. So, what are all these people doing? 26 people is quite a lot, in our terms anyway. Well, we're of course doing a CMS. That's kind of the basis of everything, or the core, as you might say. Then we're doing Umbraco as a service, which is the wrapper for Umbraco CMS that kind of gives you hosting and everything. We'll get into that later. We do a couple of packages, so Umbraco Forms for building forms. Ismail showed that off. We do Umbraco Courier, which is synchronization between environments. We do Umbraco TV tutorials for Umbraco. Our community site, there's a lot of development going on in there. And then we of course do training, and also have support clients as well. So there's quite a few things for 26 people to get at. And we've got 3 main teams in the HQ. We've got our product team, which is mostly Per and Nils, and then other people jump in from time to time, depending on if it's their area they're discussing. We've got the dev team, which is a large part of HQ, that are actually developing the cool things we're using. And then recently, like 6 months ago, we started a sales, service, and support division or department. I'm not allowed to call it a department. It's let's see. Wow. So it's not a department; it's an attitude, is what we say in Umbraco. But it's an area where we're really trying to get better and grow and be more friendly. So we've got a dedicated partner manager now, for example. We've got two dedicated communication people, making sure that we actually tell you guys about what's going on, and things like that. And then we've got a really improved first line of support. Our support has always been great, because we have some great developers who can give great support, but kind of the initial conversation we can get to much faster now because we are more people. So that's good for everyone, I think. And that's some of the new guys that have been hired within the last 4 months, and an intern. That's not the intern on the floor. But when you kind of start growing, and especially when you get new people into a company, you kind of need a root, something to kind of tell people what the values are and what the focus is going to be. And it's also great to be able to share this with the community, to kind of tell them where we would like the community to go as well. So we've been working on this actually for almost a year. It's been through many revisions. You've probably seen some, both at the UK festival and the German festival. We also had one, and at Code Garden, I think was the final one I'm going to show you now as well. So it is that we want to help you deliver delightful digital experience by making Umbraco friendly, simple, and social. And these are kind of the things we think about for every task we approach. So it needs to be with a friendly attitude. We should always look to make things more simple. Some things are complicated, but you can approach them in a simple way or present them in a simple way that makes it easier for people to get into. And then the social part, it's not necessarily being on Facebook, but it's more growing the community, kind of allowing people to share their things. So we're going to talk about Umbraco, CMS, what's going on there. First, straight from the unicorn, we've got some numbers. We always need that in a talk. So right now we're at, or yesterday anyway, we're at 370,600 active installs of Umbraco. And that's kind of a minimum version. That's pinged back from the upgrade service that's in Umbraco. So that's a pretty cool number. And it's actually 250,000 of them are V7 now, which is really amazing. A year ago, it was a little more bleak. It was only 147,000. So version 7 is really catching on now, and that's so great to see. A lot of people are also starting to upgrade their sites, because that's also gotten a lot easier to do. But let's talk about the current version, or the newest version, which we released 3 weeks ago, 7.5, which is actually already 7.5.3, ta-da. You can't say that we're lazy. It has already been installed 8,500 times in 3 weeks. That's also pretty amazing. And you might be wondering, should you upgrade to this version? And of course you should. There's 18 new features and 159 issues. That's both bugs and tasks that have been fixed. And that's just from 7.4.3. And just to show a little more, there's 33 new features and 417 issues that have been fixed since 7.3.8. So if you're on one of those two versions, you can see it there. Otherwise, you can go onto our and look at our little compare tool, and you can actually see how much you're benefiting from upgrading. I'm going to go through some of the kind of major things in 7.5 now, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the health check dashboard. And that is a way to, talking about making things simple, make sure that all there's so many different configurations in Umbraco in different config files and everything, and it can be hard to remember or even to know about all of them. So we've made this dashboard that will tell you if there's something you might want to look at. So that's why. How is we made a dashboard that will actually show you these things, and for some of them it will actually explain you. So it's not only making things simpler, it's also educating you about how Umbraco works. It's actually pretty cool. So let's try to take a look at it. Let's see. It's going to log in. And as you might see, it's also the local Gov starter kit I'm using here. It is a wonderful thing to use for demos and testing as well, because there's a lot of different. The document type structure is quite complicated, and it's just a really nice package. Okay, so if we it's hard to see anything here. If we go to the developer section of Umbraco, I might just zoom out a little. So you can't see anything. You've got a health check dashboard in here now that's got various groups. You can then click check all the groups, and then it will actually tell you what things are good and what things might not be so good. And we can have a look at something like configuration, for example. It tells you that it's configured to throw macro errors right now, which can be poor for performance and can be really shitty for users if they run into something like that. So what you can do is you can click fix, and then it will actually change your config file for you. So that's pretty cool. There's it's a little bit like magic. In theory, it should change the config file. There it is. So now it's set to inline. So that actually also tells you what the value has been set to, which is quite nice. Other cool things in here. So the data integrity stuff, you probably know. It's the XML files. They've been moved into here. We've got, for security, you can see if you're running HTTPS, which you should be. It even prompts you to set some headers in the config to make a site more safe, things like that. Now that's cool. The stuff that's in there already is wonderful. But what is really awesome is that you can actually extend this quite easily. And how do you do this, you might ask? Well, we actually have documentation for it. And it is fairly simple to set up a new dashboard. Anyways, trust me, the documentation is there. So there's full documentation on how to create your own health checks, and you might do something that just makes sense for your site, or you might do something that would be nice to share with others because it's a cool feature, or could even get into the core as well. So definitely have a look at that, if just to check if your site is safe and healthy. Yes? No. This is on demand. You check the groups in now. Yeah. That's how it works now. I'm not sure if you could probably set it up to use some kind of events as well. That might be possible, but that's actually a good idea. Yep, do it. Right. That was the first big thing in 7.5. The next thing is URL redirects. Finally, it's a part of core Umbraco, which it should have been a long time ago. It's also a dashboard. Dashboard all of the things, I guess, is the new thing. So why do you want that? Well, if an editor renames the site or deletes the site or whatever, it's nice to actually not just go into oblivion, but to be redirected to the correct page, or if they move a page around or things like that. So we basically give a dashboard in the content section where all these redirects are recorded. And let's have a look at that. Take the right one here. So if we go into the content section, you can see there's now a tab here called Redirect URL Management, and I haven't got anything redirected yet, but if we go to, say, example content and contact page, should really have been named Contact Us, just like it is in the title. So let's try to do that. And then go back to our dashboard. And voila, you can see there's now been a redirect created for you. You can then go in and remove it again if you want. And it should actually also work. So if we go to the page, then it has already redirected us to, or I guess we should go to contact. Fine. There we go. And then it should redirect us at some point. Yep, see, that works. That's also magic. Ooh. No, no, the page. Well, they could do that, but then it will still get redirected to contact us. You would need to remove the redirect. I'm pretty sure.
Someone will wonder why you cannot reach this created page.
Yeah. I can totally see how that can be a problem, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if you can configure stuff in terms of that. You might be able to. Again, very good point. If it isn't working like you expected, do a pull request. There you go. Wonderful. And then we've got packages in the back office. Now this is kind of a huge thing for us. Why has that been changed? Well, because it wasn't super useful before. I think it hasn't really been changed since version 4.2 or something like that. And the search didn't work. Well, if you knew the exact name of the package, you could find the package, maybe. And I think the popular packages that were shown by default were 5 hard-coded packages or 7 hard-coded packages. That's also been in there since version 4 or something like that. So it was about time that it got changed. How? Well, our wonderful front-enders, Mads and Simon, has designed a completely new package section. And it has also, during working with this, we've also done minimum versions for packages, which means that you can actually now target packages to a version. And the package installer will tell you if the version of Umbraco you're running is not compatible with the package you're trying to install. And that's really helpful as well. Let's try to see how that looks. So, go to packages. As you can see now, it's kind of taken, it's been influenced by the work that's been done with the document type editor and with grid layouts as well. This is kind of the way we're going. The first demo Nils showed of V8 also kind of has a lot of this aesthetic. So that's kind of the direction we're heading with that. You can sort by different groups. You can search for local gov, for example, and it actually returns something without you having to type in the entire name. Do color palettes by Bjarne, and really easy. It doesn't come up with huge red warnings that looks like you should never, ever try to install a package now. It's actually a friendly interface that seems like it's... Huh? Yeah. Yeah, please do. Call support. I'll just give it one more go. We'll blame it on the internet. Oh, something happened. Just accept the terms of use and click install. And then it installs the package for you. Nice and easy and friendly. And once that is done, we're running at demo speed right now. It's perfect. Now the package is installed, and then you can go into the package section and have a look at all the packages that's been installed here. You can also, of course, also install a local package. You can drag and drop in here or select a file. And it's also really easy to get rid of it again. Just click uninstall, confirm, and hit the button. So that's a new package installer. That's also a really, really nice feature, and it's been a long time coming. It's about time that that got fixed up. Is there more? Of course there is. The date picker now can actually work with time zones. So if you have content editors in a different time zone than the server, then it can actually work now. you need to set that on the date picker. It's not on by default, but it can actually they can actually work properly now, which is nice, I guess, for them. You can do sorting by properties in a list view now. There's been a lot of requests, custom properties even, for this feature. And password reset. Woo! It's also amazing that it's taken 11 years for that to get in there. But it's there now. Yay. And there's a ton of different things. 18 new features since 7.4.3, as I said. So go explore that. Let's talk a little bit about the other big thing we're developing on, aside from the CMS itself, and that is Umbraco as a Service. How many of you know what Umbraco as a Service is? Okay, it's not that many actually. Well, allow me to explain. It is, it's very important to point out that it is a wrapper for Umbraco. Umbraco, just because we're doing a service doesn't mean that Umbraco is gonna not be open source in the future. Actually, the Umbraco that's running on Umbraco Service is the open source. It's completely the same version as you download from our. But what you get with Umbraco Service, the actual service is that you get a managed infrastructure running on Azure using their great infrastructure there, and there's no setup involved for you at all. You basically click a button and then you've got a new project installed on a server. You get managed Umbraco installation, upgrades, deployments, all these things you don't have to worry about anymore. It's kind of taking all the boring stuff out of web development. And the final thing is that you get project and team scaling. And that means that actually an Umbraco service project, the starter plan costs 25 euros, and that gives you a live environment with an installation of Umbraco, automatic upgrades, all these things. If you want a development environment, you can just add that by the click of a button. And that adds a little bit to your bill, but you can also remove the environment again once you've finished development. So if you maybe need to initiate development for a couple of months and then deploy that to a live site, you just pay for the 2 months that you want the development environment, and then you can remove it again. And the same goes for users. On the starter plan, you pay a little bit to add users there, but you can remove them again, and that's reflected in the bill as well. With regards to team, it also gives the developers or users access to all the environments. You can set for permissions for each environment, but it gives them access, and they have the same log-on credentials for each environment, even for the local installation, which you can pull down. So it's super easy to work with. And of course, if you change your password in the portal, that's reflected in all the installations as well. Yeah, and then one of the big features is that you actually get automatic upgrades, and that's for minor versions. People have gotten their sites upgraded quite a few times over the past couple of weeks, 7.5.1, 2, and 3, and they haven't done anything. It's just happened magically. And for minor versions, you get a button in the interface which you can click when you're ready. You need to have a development environment in order to do a minor version upgrade, just so you can check that everything is running as it should before you deploy to the live site. So kind of making it simple and safe for you to upgrade the project. But other than that, everything is totally automatic. The two other big pillars of Umbraco Service is content flow. Trademark? Nah, not really. But it's a great marketing term. Content flow means that you can deploy and restore files and types between environments. So that's the entire file system. Everything is version controlled with Git, which is just everything should be anyway, and now it is. But it's also your document types and your data types and your member types and basically everything that's development assets. So that's one flow, and the other one is content, and that's handled from the back office. And that means that editors can actually work in a staging environment and send content to a live site. Developers can restore content from the live site to a development environment. So you kind of get a flow of both content and development assets. Well, not really recycling, I guess, more like this, where editors can create content, developers can get those changes and build features with them. They can be sent to QA on the staging environment or the development environment, and then they're sent to the live side. And everything is kind of circular, so you don't have to do a content freeze for a week or whatever sometimes happens, right? What we're trying to achieve here is that everything is just organic. So that's a really cool thing. The other thing is a really great feature is baseline flow, TM, which means that you can create a baseline project, and that's just like any project on Umbraco as a service, which can act as sort of a starter kit. So all the default stuff you use for an Umbraco project, you can have in your baseline project, and you can then create child projects from that baseline. And that means that they get all the development assets, so document types, file system, all those things are sent out to the new project you create from the baseline. And what's really awesome is that you can then upgrade, or you can update your child project from the baseline, so you can keep developing on your baseline, and once a feature is tested and ready, then you can send it out to the children of the project. We were talking about Carlsberg before. They use this for a lot of campaign sites, where they have a baseline, and they even create child projects and hand them off to different developers in the different markets, and then they get access to the feature updates that are created on the baseline as well. So it's a really powerful feature. Let's have a quick look at Umbraco as a service as well. See if we can find something good here. I think I've got one that's called, there we go. So this project, the way I've created this is that I created a single environment. I clicked on manage environments. Then I said I wanted to add a development environment, and now I can add a staging environment in between those two if I want to as well. And I can of course delete it here. So that's the first step. I then cloned my development environment, and that's really easy. It's just using Git. So you get a clone URL, put that into your Git client, terminal, or whatever you're using. Then you pull the site down locally, and then you just start it up with IIS or Visual Studio or whatever you want. It's by default running with SQL CE, but you can also migrate that over to a normal SQL database. Now it's important to note that each of the environments are separate installations with separate databases there as well, and you have access to the databases on the servers as well. But then I installed the local gov starter kit on my local machine and pushed that up to development environment, and I created content locally and pushed that up to the development environment. So if we go into the back office of the development environment, we should see a bunch of content in here. Yes, that is there. And just to show that I'm not cheating or anything, let's have a look at the live side as well. There we go. And there is no content in here. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to right-click on the piece of content we want to move, and then we say queue for transfer. And I would actually like to move all of my content, so I'll include all the pages below, queue that up, and then we go to our deployment dashboard, if that is available somewhere. Should be available somewhere. I'm already there. Wonderful screen size. So here are the queue of my my content items. It's the home page, including all the pages below it, and I want to send that to the live workspace. And then it packages everything up, and it actually controls that everything is in place in the live environment as well, and then it tells us all the stuff that needs to be over in the live environment, and then we can transfer it. And it shouldn't take too long. Transfer complete, and then when we go to the live environment and refresh our browser, we have content. So that's really easy. Now what we can do is we can say, what are we going to say? We can say Umbraco PL SDR here on the live side, save and publish that. And then we go back to the development side and say we actually want the latest changes from the live side. And if you have multiple environments, you can choose which environment to restore from. The same goes for your local installation. You can pick from live or development or whatever you want. Yes. And now the content in our development environment has been updated. Yes? Well, it depends on how much time you have and how many dependencies the pages has. But as a rule, no. But at some point, you might. So the more content you move, the longer time it takes, of course, especially if you have a lot of media in there, then it can take quite a long time. And you can run into the risk of session timing out, or if something happens on the live side that interferes with the process. So it can be a good idea to do it in bulk or in smaller sections if you have like a huge amount of content to move over. But that should rarely be the case that you need to move all of your content at once, right? Yeah. Yeah. It might be right now, but what I'm going to talk about a little bit later, so it totally depends on the pages, right? And the content and the dependencies in there. Because the graph can grow to a extreme thing with 200,000 nodes. We are working hard on Courier version 3, which should be released soon. Then I haven't promised too much, but it's really, really close. And this is not a bullshit number. This is Shannon's what he calculated from his tests on a site with a ton of content and a ton of media as well. It's 10,000% faster than V2. So that should help with your 200,000 content nodes. And it's very close to being released. So it's going from recording everything in a big, well, everything is recorded in XML, but when it sends it, it also creates a huge XML graph, and that gets shipped over and it gets iterated through a ton of times. And that's why it takes so long. So now everything is moved over to objects in memory, and that is just so much faster. So we can all look forward to that. That's going to be awesome. That answer? Yeah. Let's see, where were we? Yeah, I can quickly show you we're in the development environment. So that was for content handled in the back office. If we wanted to add let's say we've got our home node pages, section homepage. If we want to add an image property, for example, to our homepage, call that image, and then we'll take a media picker. There we go. Save that. And now on our homepage, we should have a media picker here. And that's of course not in the live environment right now. But you can see now there is a deployment ready to be sent to the live. So I can say edit image picker to home. Confirm that. And then it sends our new change over to the live environment. So basically how easy it is. Now that process doesn't transfer content. You have to do that. So if you picked a piece of content, you'd also need to go in and transfer that, of course. Okay, we're not going to wait for that. So that was Umbraco as a service. Now Umbraco Service, as I just talked about, have really benefited from being, our courier and forms have really benefited from being on Umbraco Service. We are much closer to our to the users of Umbraco now, and we're getting a lot of feedback, and that's getting turned around really quickly. And that's why we're going to see those huge benefits with courier. And there's going to be a lot of changes for forms as well, with regarding to how it stores workflows, for example, and things like that. And it also feeds back into the CMS as well, because we are in so much closer contact with the users. And we actually see a lot more implementations of Umbraco than we did before, which is really great and really horrible sometimes, but that's life, I guess. Right. Just going to talk a little bit about our Umbraco, the community site, where if you haven't been there already, you should totally go there. You'll be a better Umbraco developer for it and a happier person, I'm sure. There's a bunch of friendly people in there that share knowledge, and you can also find our documentation in there. Last year, it had 1.2 million unique visitors, which is a pretty amazing number, I think. And I think it's around 30,000 active developers, which is, I think it is more than 25 sessions per user. So it's a busy place. A lot of stuff is going on in there. And we're also improving both ourselves and get great pull requests from the community. It's also open source, just like the CMS is. You can download our with a mock database and start developing on it and give us wonderful new features for everyone to benefit from. But as we talked about, one of the new features is minimum versions on packages, which is really helpful. That's just been released, a new sign-up flow, which might be nice if you haven't been there before. For the people who are there, it really doesn't matter. I just wanted to say it. And as you saw a little bit earlier, I think it was Ismail who showed that as well, you can actually compare versions now, which is really nice, so you can see. It can be really nice to, if you need to convince a client to upgrade, like show them how many things they're actually getting. And then the price for an upgrade might not be as much. And if you're on Umbraco Service, you just click the button, of course. And then with regards to documentation, there's a lot of stuff that has happened there as well. As you saw, there's documentation for the health check now, and it's a kind of a definition of done now for our new features is that we create documentation for it, and that's a really important thing. And the documentation is also open source, so I invite everyone to fork it and contribute to it. Another cool thing with documentation is that you can actually now link to headers in the documentation, which is a really nice feature. Some of the pages are quite long, so it can be nice to link to a specific place in the documentation. Yep, that's it for. Was there a question? No. Kind of what I had for our Umbraco. I will run through the roadmap quickly. I don't have that much new to tell if you've been to Code Garden. But for the newcomers here, it might be nice to know what's coming in the future. The next version of Umbraco is, funnily enough, called Umbraco 7.6, and it includes a new template editor, which has also been a long time coming, so you can actually use it, which is wonderful. And we're looking at getting some sense of intelligence in there, much better syntax highlighting and things like that. It will be built completely from the ground up. We're going to get the iSearchable tree, which means that all trees in Umbraco can be searched now. Before it was only specific sections, but you can now actually search anything from anywhere, which is really cool. Going to do saved searches, which means that you can build out queries that you can then use later, which can be really, really helpful in your templates. And then we're also looking to add a document unlock feature. If you don't want an editor to mess with a piece of content, then you can actually lock it now. And nested content is going into the core as well. Hopefully that will be in 7.6. It's such a wonderful package, and it should be a part of Umbraco. Actually, a lot of work has already been done there on the retreat we had before Code Garden this year, so it's pretty close to being ready. Then other stuff in the works, as I mentioned, V3 of Courier, Umbraco Deploy, which is kind of the next version of Courier. It's going to replace Courier, and dynamic dashboards is a new thing. I don't think anyone has heard anything about that, but that will actually let us deliver informative content to you in the back office. So instead of just having a couple of videos in there, we can actually show you new features or highlight new packages or things like that. So it'll be a way for us to communicate with you guys as well. And then a couple of our developers are working on a style guide, which will encompass all of Umbraco's things. So the CMS, Umbraco Service, everything in there, and that will be public once it's done. And that means that you can actually take things from it and use it in your property editors or whatever you're doing. So you get access to the stuff we're using as well. We've talked about that for years and years, and now it's actually in development, and that's going to be really cool. And then we've got Umbraco 8 coming at some point. Variants were discussed a little bit earlier, I think. So part of this, it's going to contain both variants and segments, which is going to allow you to target segments of users. You can define them and then target them, and then you can have different variants of your content that you want to show to different segments, for example. This will also be used for one-to-one multilingual. If you know Vorto, that's kind of the approach we're looking at taking there. So that's going to be really nice. New cache, or Le Cache Nouveau. The guy who develops it is French, Stéphane, which is basically going to replace the XML cache with object-oriented cache, which is going to be so much faster, and apparently it's a wonderful thing. I don't really know anything about it, but everything says it's great. Latest Angular JS, 1 point whatever, not Angular 2 yet. I think it's a little bit too early for that, but that's going to be amazing to get Angular updated as well. I think that's going to make a lot of people happy. I know it's going to make our developers happier. It's going to have a UX, new user experience, a redesign there. As you've seen over the last year, a lot of stuff has happened with the back office, and that's going to continue with V8. And if you want a glimpse of what we're working on there, you can have a look at the keynote from Code Garden this year, where Nils showed it off. But it's more wireframe than anything. It's not done yet at all. And that's for the kind of the inner circle, people who've worked with Umbraco for a long time. Everything's going to be GUID based now. And IDs is going to be pretty much a thing of the past. They'll still exist, but everything will be handled with GUIDs, which is, trust me, a good thing. Examine V2, better search. That's pretty much what I know about that. If Ismail were here, he could probably say something clever about it. And then I think we're at 30,000 lines of code that's been removed from V7 to V8. So a lot of the legacy stuff. Yeah. We just pick. I think it's every 13 line. We wrote a script and then it just removes it. Yeah. No, but there's so much legacy stuff in V7 now, and that's all getting cleaned up and refactored, and which means that it's going to be it's going to be smaller, just the size of it. Yeah.
Do you have some kind of what kind of tests do you have to confirm that after the code cleanup? If you know, of course, that after the code cleanup, Umbraco is still working and you introduce new item bugs.
Well, so how do we know that it works?
Yeah.
When we've done a cleanup?
Army of testers.
Yeah, well, we have the community. So I mean, but they do a lot of the testing for us, right? They use it in so many different ways, and we can test all of it. What is happening right now is that we're trying to get everything in the core testable, like unit testing and stuff like that, right? And that is definitely going to be the case for V8, and that's hopefully going to catch a lot of it. But I mean, other than that, I can't speak more to the testing of it.
I was wondering if you know, but probably someone else is responsible for that.
Yeah, definitely. That's wonderful. And we are also going to have alphas and betas and stuff like that, where people can help us test and things of that nature.
So the problem with code cleanup is basically that if you try to say that to your PM that you want to have a code cleanup, you ask you, do I have to test it every whole application?
Yeah. But that's also why it's called V8, right? And I mean, in V7 there's so much legacy stuff in there, and then for the new version we can actually move away from all that. That's a lot of it is just there to be backwards compatible, which it's going to be a clean break. So depending on what side you've developed, the migration over to V8 will be really easy or not so easy. It's going to be a new thing. Right. So for all of us, go out there, be friendly. Like we're trying to make the CMS more friendly. We're trying to approach the community more friendly, new customers more friendly. We also encourage you to be friendly towards each other, be friendly on the forum, help people out, share things, the work you've done. You might having new sets of eyes on your packages or your property editors or whatever it will improve you, and it'll make you a happier person in the end. So that's it for me for now. Thanks again to Cogworks for everything. It's been a great day so far. Are there any questions? Yes? I don't have chocolate for you. I'm sorry.
Okay, so my first question.
Yes.
Your workflow on the new versions. You have in your department only one team working on the new versions, or for example, you have few teams working on parallel on the extending the 7 version and another one working on the 8 version. How does it do?
No, it's the same team. They're working on. Yeah, a lot of it is Shannon right now working on V8, but it's the same people that do 7 that do 8. It's not a different group of people. That's a good point to make as well. Yeah. As far as I know, in the roadmap, it's on for 7.6. That's kind of the best answer I can give you. I mean, if something happens, right, if we run into something that makes it really hard, then it might get pushed, depending on how much we want to get 6 out, or if we should wait a little bit longer. That's the best answer I can give for that. So another one? Yeah, of course. Everyone in the .NET community is thinking about core, I think. It's really exciting what's going on there. It's not super ready for us yet. I know Shannon, again, the one-man army, has been working on getting Umbraco like working properly on core, and it's actually pretty close to being a thing. But in order to work properly on core, there's a lot of stuff that has to change, and that is V8 is a stepping stone to that, right? So all of the code cleanup, for example, there's a reason other than performance and it's just a nicer solution, then it's also needed to be able to run on core, because all of the legacy stuff, it's not going to happen on core. So V9 is the plan for .NET Core. There's no time frame for it right now, basically. But it's not even released yet. So, yes. Which one? I think we're looking at a beta at the end of the year, as things are now. That's kind of the closest I can give. We don't have a hard release date, and if I gave you one, you would just all come after me. Come Christmas, and I want a good Christmas holiday. But that's the plan right now. Anything else? Yes?
Another one. I was just curious regarding the Umbraco Service. Are you using your own infrastructure or one of the big players for the...
It's running on Azure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the Git repositories, you also using your own servers?
Nope. We're using Kudu for that. So we're not developing that side of things. We let people who understand that stuff do that, and then we make use of what's out there. Cool. If you think of a question later, you can catch me on Twitter, or if you're joining us tonight, then be sure to talk to me there. I want to get your feedback on anything and everything. High five, you rock, Poland. It's great being here. And yeah, that's it for me.